Hey, Miriam, take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you, Yadi. And thank you everyone for joining us today for this webinar on undocumented students pursuing nurses, California, and other policies that support the advancement of undocumented students. My name is Miriam Feldblum, and I'm the Executive Director of the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration. The nonpartisan nonprofit alliance brings over 500 college and university presidents and chancellors together on the immigration issues that impact higher education, our students, campuses, and communities. We work to advance common sense, forward-looking immigration policies and practices at the federal, state, and campus levels for undocumented, international, and refugee students. Today, we're honored and thrilled to be partnering with Yadi Ortiz, Pre-Health Dreamers, NILC, and the other participating organizations and institutions on this important webinar on supporting undocumented students in nursing and other health professions. Before turning this over to Yadi Ortiz, the Executive Director, Pre-Health Dreamers, I want to applaud Pre-Health Dreamers and underscore the importance of this organization and topic. Pre-Health Dreamers is an essential advocacy and student-centered service organization whose leadership and dedication on behalf of undocumented students in the health professions has made a world of difference for students across campuses, across the country, and certainly in California. I'm really excited of what we're going to hear today, and I know that the focus is primarily on California, but I think the lessons and what we can do on campuses across the country will come through today as well. Yadi, over to you.
Thank you, Miriam. And so my name is Yadi Ortiz. I am the Executive Director of Pre-Health Dreamers. And I want to thank all of our presenters for sharing their knowledge today and for all of our attendees who will be speaking today. We have Tanya Broder, the Senior Staff Attorney from the National Immigration Law Center, NILC. Arturo Cortez, enrolled agent, bilingual certifying acceptance agent. He's very familiar with individual taxpayer identification numbers, which we know as ITINs. And we also have our wonderful partner, Deborah Richardson, who's an RN and has a lot of background to share with you on really how to welcome and work with undocumented students who are pursuing nursing. You can find out more about Pre-Health Dreamers at phdreamers.org. But for a quick overview, just as Miriam had stated, Pre-Health Dreamers promotes equitable education and healthcare access opportunities and resources for undocumented individuals and immigrant communities. We believe that immigration status should not exclude anyone from pursuing their dreams of higher education or careers and contributing to their communities. At Pre-Health Dreamers, we envision a healthcare system that is accessible and welcoming to all, regardless of their immigration status. Pre-Health Dreamers has been working on this project for quite some time, and the goal of this webinar and nursing resource is to support undocumented students who have to continuously self-advocate and learn how to navigate challenging hurdles and questions that come up as they're pursuing their nursing programs and licensure. At PhD, we have learned that we must go beyond just providing students with the resources and just teaching them about self-advocacy. We also know that it's really important to expand our resources and the knowledge that we have obtained to nursing programs and clinical sites that seek to learn all the different intricacies of working with students without an SSN. We're continuously working with concerned counselors and nursing programs who want to create welcoming spaces for undocumented students, but they really don't know how. I want to invite all of our attendees today here to receive all of the information with open minds and open hearts. The information you receive today may be new, and for some folks, it might feel complicated, and also the implementation of all of these new kind of processes and ideas that we're talking about, they might be a little bit overwhelming. However, that we've at Pre-Health Dreamers, we really have learned that with time, creative solutions, partnerships, getting informed, all of those combined help us create equitable and welcoming programs for undocumented students. We know through experience that it takes teams and support from various individuals to implement many of these ideas that we're going to be discussing today. However, we have learned that students and community members are going to benefit from changes that support undocumented students through our partnerships and through getting informed. And thanks to many who have already implemented equitable processes, we do have now undocumented nurses, nurses with DACA, nurses with TPS, and also other health-related professions, such as doctors, dentists, physical therapists, and mental health counselors. And all of these individuals are now serving in our communities, especially during this pandemic. Undocumented students pursuing nursing is not a new thing. Many institutions have already enrolled and graduated undocumented students. We are seeing a rise in students pursuing health-related professions, and we are expecting that there's going to be more. And because of this, today's information will help you prepare to support current students and the influx of students seeking your programs in the near future. Today's speakers will touch on concerns and questions that continuously arise, such as background checks, ITIN numbers, income generating options for individuals without a social security number, and more. Please share all of the information that you're going to be learning today with your partners, especially if you have partners or if you have partnerships with individuals in hospitals and clinics, if you're a nursing program with these partnerships. And all of this information is really going to help students complete their internships, clinicals, and other professional experiences. I want to share in the chat two other resources. My colleague's going to share two resources with you right now that help bring awareness to this information. We have a letter, an advocacy letter, or a letter of support for undocumented students pursuing nursing, and we also have a nursing Q&A for undocumented students. If you are out of California, please use this information as a base to start asking yourself kind of the questions that you might need to ask to make more equitable or create more equitable support at your sites or at your institution. Start thinking about the partnerships and you really start researching what the policies mean in your state. If you are out of California and if you need support with that, please reach out to Pre-Health Dreamers to find it. I think just getting that information is going to be very useful in implementing the support that undocumented students need. And I will end my part with that. And now I want to give the space to a wonderful partner of us, Tanya Broder. Again, she's the senior staff attorney at the National Immigration Law Center, NILC. And Tanya, I'll give you the floor.
Thanks so much, Yadi. I'm going to try and share my screen and hi, everybody. Let's see if this works. Let's see. And let's see. Can you see that? Cool. So thanks for having me and thanks for all the incredible work that Pre-Health Dreamers and Immigrants Rising both have done to kind of make this presentation possible. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over a little bit of the legal landscape in California in particular, some of which has also been picked up by other states across the country, some of which has yet to be picked up, and to talk about, how the investment in California students has paid off in multiple ways over time. And it wasn't always this way. And really the reason why it is this way is because of the incredible advocacy of immigrant youth, as well as educators who work together to try and make this possible. So, and I'm happy to say that really since 2001 in California, the state has offered access to in-state tuition rates for students who meet certain criteria, regardless of their citizenship or immigration status. AB 540 is what we call it in California, and it's actually helped citizens and immigrants who have grown up here. And over time, it's actually been expanded to help more people who come here, either who finish high school more quickly and have attended elementary school here, or who come to the state a little bit later and get their GED in the state and can now count at least 2 years, up to 2 years of community college, adult school, or even time that they were in in custody while they were taking classes. So it's a really great policy, and we've known many people who have graduated in part helped by in-state tuition rates in California. The other thing, obviously, this didn't make it fully affordable for students to attend college. So the state also has invested over time in state financial aid, institutional aid, and certain kinds of grants for students who meet that AB 540 criteria, regardless of their immigration status. And even as late as a couple years ago, they opened up the competitive Cal grants and service incentive grant programs to students, including undocumented students. Dream loans are available at many schools for students who meet that criteria. And now there's going to be a service program that will offer opportunities for people who are trying to get through school to engage in community service and to be awarded with stipends of up to $7,000 and scholarships of up to $3,000. It's pretty good. And finally, and as Yadi kind of mentioned earlier on, it's really hard for students who are already having their own, a full-time occupation of, trying to learn and pursue their education to figure out how to navigate all of these opportunities, grants, loans, financial aid, and service opportunities. So the budget has recently invested in Dreamer resource liaisons who can help students navigate. And I'm sure some of you are already working with students, and my hat's off to you. And I know that you have made life better in California all around by helping students get all the way through school and kind of fulfill their potential. Now, sometimes students do run across barriers. They're moving ahead. They want to complete, they want to go to nursing school. They want to pursue a health profession, and yet not all these laws are familiar to the administrator of the program. So I'm just going to review a few things that California has underscored. We've got a ton of different civil rights and anti-discrimination laws in California. One is very specifically focused on higher education institutions, basically covering any program or activity that is conducted by a post-secondary education institution, either that has received or that continues to benefit from state financial assistance or enroll students who receive student financial aid. That's pretty much almost anyone. The discrimination prohibited is based on a number of different grounds, race, gender, and other things, but it also explicitly prohibits discrimination based on a student's immigration status. So this would apply also to nursing programs in California that are deciding whether to admit a student. They would be prohibited from discriminating based on that student's immigration status. Another law that passed thanks to advocacy again by Immigrants Rising Pre-Health Dreamers is SB 1139, and we'll talk about it on two different slides. But one of the things that it does is it prohibits hospitals and other clinical sites from denying admission to what they call unpaid healing arts training programs based on a student's status. So the California Business and Professions Code kind of elaborates on that, and it has under that code, nursing does fall within the broad meaning of the term healing arts, nursing, dentists, and other healthcare professions. So there's one more kind of prohibition on denying access based on a student's immigration status. That same law also prohibited the denial of admission to medical degree programs based on a student's status. So taken all together, we've even got other civil rights laws that kind of govern businesses and other things that all collectively say that you can evaluate a student based on the student's merits and other eligibility, but you can't deny admission or participation in these types of programs based on their status. So that's very helpful. Okay, so we've gone through K through 12, that's available regardless of status and across the country, Plyler versus Doe. We've gone through college and professional training and even the clinical programs, and we can talk about other barriers to those later. Now it's time to practice the profession or to get a license to practice the profession. And again, thanks to Immigrants Rising and Pre-Health Dreamers, who identified this as a gap, California did pass a law opening up access to professional and occupational licenses to eligible applicants who present either a social security number or an individual taxpayer identification number, or ITIN, which I think Arturo is going to talk about later. And they can be licensed to practice whatever the professional and occupational licenses are available in California. That's a law that has been in California for a few years and has been picked up by at least 5 other states that issue licenses regardless of status, covering about 35% of the foreign-born individuals in the United States. So it's a good trend, and that's regardless of status. In some other states, they focus more on DACA grantees or people with work authorization, but it's still a helpful opening for you to work from. We can talk more about that if people are here from other states. California also opened up business licenses at the local level for people who have an ITIN. That SB 1139 that the health professionals and students kind of advocated for also helps folks, and this is particularly focused on people who come from underserved areas. They may be bilingual, bicultural, and they may want to go back to their home areas to practice their health profession of any kind. And so this is a really helpful way of making sure that they can do so with either loan forgiveness or scholarship funds, or, you know, very health professional focused scholarships and support. So this is a way of really enriching the kind of healthcare that's delivered in California, making us all more healthy. And finally, on this slide, we've got the SEED program. See that the trick, which is funding for entrepreneurial training and micro grants that support people who have barriers to employment, because some of the people we're talking about don't currently have authorization to work as an employee. So this will give people support to work in other capacities, particularly if they're limited English proficient, or they are neither a US citizen or a lawful permanent resident. They may be able to launch or maintain a small business, work as an independent contractor, or do other kind of clever self-initiated activity that falls outside the traditional definition of employment. And the folks at Immigrants Rising really have a lot of resources on how to help entrepreneurs, how to help folks get through college, how to navigate some of these different rules that I went over in California in particular, but maybe even in other states as well. We've got a few materials on our website, the National Immigration Law Center. Yadi will go over the resources on Pre-Health Dreamers and particularly on healthcare careers. That is a really rich set of resources as well. And finally, the portal that Miriam oversees, the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration, is an amazing portal that kind of gives you a window into the policies in all 50 states. So I would encourage you to go there. And I guess the last thing I'll say for people who are thinking about, like, why should we invest in training people who aren't immediately eligible to work as employees, I would say that the training, especially in the healthcare field, especially now that people receive, is so critical all by itself, that there are a variety of different ways in which undocumented nurses might be able to use their skills to help promote the health of the community and our nation, that an individual's immigration status itself evolves over time. So you might be undocumented today, and you might have a way of becoming more documented tomorrow. And if we all work together, our immigration laws also evolve. So we may collectively have more opportunities to gain access to work authorization and permanent status in the United States. So this is all a reason to keep investing. I know California has benefited enormously from the people who have gone through our schools and our nursing programs and healthcare programs. We're very lucky for them. And I know that other states are starting to pick that up and do the same. So I hope to work with all of you on that. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Tanya. And there's been questions on the chat. We will be sending the recorder and we'll be asked the recording to everybody. And we'll ask our presenters if it's okay for some of the information from their slides to also be sent. But regardless, a lot of this information is also on the Pre-Health Dreamers resources that have been included in the chat. Thank you so much, Tanya. And I think one of the most vital parts of your slides is really understanding, just policies or laws that really support the advancement of undocumented individuals pursuing health professional programs. We still have many institutions that are unaware of a lot of these policies, even though they were implemented years ago, and are denying students based on information, by old information. So thank you so much for those updates, and for your information that you provided. Next, we have Arturo Cortez, enrolled agent, bilingual certifying acceptance agent, and he's going to be talking to us a little bit about ITINs, which is the, so sorry, the individual taxpayer identification number. And I know that comes up a lot when we're talking about processing students. There's some questions or concerns sometimes around, background checks, or how do ITINs really work, and what are they? And so Arturo, please, I'm going to go ahead and hand over the floor to you to provide that information for us. You're muted, Arturo. No.
Okay,
There
now?
you go. Now I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right, okay. My name is Arturo Cortez. I'm an enrolled agent and I'm registered with the Internal Revenue Service to represent any taxpayers before the service. And I am also a certified acceptance agent for the IRS. I'm going to give you a quick overview of what an ITIN is and some of the advantages and some of the things you can do with it. The first thing is, what is an ITIN? Well, an ITIN, as you've heard a couple of times already, it's a individual taxpayer identification number. What that means is it's a number that the IRS issues to individuals who are required to file a tax return, but don't qualify to or don't meet the eligibility to get a Social Security number. So the IRS issues these individuals an ITIN number so that they can file a tax return. That's the primary purpose of an ITIN. Now, how to apply? Basically, you use Form W7. You can download that from the IRS website. And this form serves two purposes. You can either apply for a brand new ITIN, or you can renew an existing ITIN that has expired. If you look at the form on the top right-hand corner, there's a box with two little boxes, and that's what you check your type of application. So if you have a brand new, it's an application for a brand new ITIN number, you will need two pieces of identification with that application. One that will show identity, meaning it has to have a picture, and one that shows your foreign status. Keep in mind that a passport is the only document that is a standalone document. That means that it can be used for both identity and foreign status identification. If you don't have a passport, then you have to use a combination of two pieces of identification. Could be like a California driver's license or a US driver's license for that matter. It could be the state identification card, anything that has a picture and that will show your identity. And for foreign status, there are several pieces of information the IRS will accept. The most commonly used will be, of course, the birth certificate, because that doesn't expire. And so if you look at the website of the IRS and look for the instructions for W7, you will see a list of the specific items that that will be maybe useful in the application process. Now, if you apply for a brand new ITIN number, you will need to submit an income tax return with that application. Because as I said, the only purpose the IRS issues this number is so that you can file a tax return. So you must, so if you apply now, you have to say, for example, submit the 2020 income tax return, or if you had previous years to report, you can do that as well. This is when you apply for a brand new ITIN. When you renew your ITIN, you do basically the same process. You file your Form W-7 and submit your documents, your identity documents and your foreign status documents, but you don't have to submit a tax return. Keep in mind that if you haven't filed your tax return because you found out that your existing ITIN has expired, don't file that tax return until you get that ITIN renewed. And also, keep in mind that pretty soon we'll be in the next tax season. In a couple of months, we'll already be full blown on the tax season for tax year 2021. So if your ITIN has expired, they'll renew it right away and don't file any tax returns until you have that already taken care of. Now that we know how to apply, where to apply will be the next question. Well, you can do it 3 ways. You can do it by mail. You can fill out that W-7 and submit the documents and the tax return if it's a brand new ITIN you're applying for, or just the identity documents if you are applying for a renewal. You can do it by mail. If you do it by mail, you have to submit original document. You cannot submit copies or notarized copies of your identity documents. Those identity documents like a driver's license, a passport, a birth certificate, everything has to be original. That's if you want to do it by mail on your own. You can also go to an IRS office, and they have a tax assistance center, that taxpayer assistance center. They can help you out with the W-7 application. Now, not all these IRS offices have this way of certifying your documents. They might help you fill out the application, and they might send it in to the processing center in Austin, Texas, if they don't offer this service. So if you want to do it through the IRS office, make sure they offer this so they can return the original documents to you, and you don't have to send them in. And the third way, and which I recommend to everyone applying for an ITIN, is using the services of a certified acceptance agent. What we do is we certify your documents. We review your documents. We make sure they're legit, they're current, they're not expired, that the person in the applying for the ITIN is the person in the picture, and those things. And we fill out a certificate of accuracy of those documents, and we sign that certificate to the IRS, and the IRS accepts that as certified documents. So we return the documents to the applicant the very same moment that they apply for, the very same day, so they don't have to submit the any original documents to the IRS. If you want to know if you need to renew your ITIN, well, a lot of the ITINs that were issued years ago have expired. Basically, real quick, all ITINs begin with the number 9, and they're made up of 9 numbers, and the 2 middle digits begin with the number 70 through 99. So if you have an ITIN and the middle digits are from 70 through 88, those have already expired, and you have to renew. If their numbers are from 89 through 99 and they were issued after year 2012, they haven't expired. You don't have to renew those, but you need to be very careful. You can check this information again on the instructions for the Form W-7 on the website that the IRS has. Now, let's talk about the benefits of having an ITIN. And of course, the best benefit, number one benefit, is that you're now able, once you're issued an ITIN, to file a tax return. So you'll be in compliance with the laws of the country in terms of reporting your income tax, your income, so you can pay taxes on that. But by doing so, the tax return will document your work history. and it will show your physical presence in the United States, which might help you out later on if you wanted to legalize your immigration status here by showing that you're complying with the laws of the country. So that's one of the good benefits with once you have an ITIN, then a lot of financial institutions, most of financial institutions accept that. So you can open a bank account. With that number, with an ITIN number, you can obtain a EIN, Employer Identification Number, with the IRS, and that will allow you to open a business bank account. That will allow you to apply for, say, if you want to apply for a contractor's license, or if you want to be part of a limited liability company, you can use that EIN. If you have to file, a state tax return, you can use that to open up on a state account. I mean, it's many things you can do with that number. You can even buy a home. I have clients that I prefer their taxes that were able to purchase a home with using an ITIN, presenting 2 or 3 years of tax returns with their ITINs, and they were allowed to buy a home. Other benefits that come with having an ITIN is tax benefits at the federal level. Even though taxpayers with an ITIN don't qualify for the earned income credit, they do qualify for the child tax credit if the children have Social Security numbers. So someone, say, with 2 or 3 dependents can claim each. The tax credit is very substantial because it is for 2020 and probably 2021. It's going to be $3,000 for a child between the ages of 6 and 17, and $3,600 for minor children under 6 years old. And that is a refundable credit, meaning that even if you don't have to pay any taxes because your income is very low, you will still get that money as a refund. So it's a very substantial amount. Even if your dependents, for example, don't have a Social Security number, they have an ITIN, they do qualify for another credit, which is called the other dependent credit. And that is also very good. That's $500. So those things are benefits that come with at the federal level. Now, at the state level, you do qualify if you have an ITIN for the earned income credit here in California anyways. And if you qualify for that credit and you have a minor child under 6 years old, there is a child tax credit that it's $1,000. So that is also very substantial. So you qualify for the stimulus payments with an ITIN now, and so those are the benefits that come with having an ITIN. Now, as to how long it would take to get this number, this application process, so you can be issued a number. In pre-pandemic times, it would take my clients 4 weeks at the most, even in the middle of tax season. But with the pandemic, many things, of course, changed. And I know the ITIN operation unit out in Austin, Texas, they closed the office from May through October of year 2020. So you can imagine the backlog of applications and then with all those numbers expiring and people having to renew their applications, the time took longer and longer to process those applications. And it's taking now 3 to 4 months for the IRS to process the applications. And like I said before, in about 2 months, 2.5 months, we'll be in the middle of the next tax season. So, you will be, if you have to file a tax return and have that ITIN number, you don't have to wait until you get that number. So the sooner you do this, the better. The sooner you apply for an ITIN, the better. This is basically a general perspective of what I wanted to give you an overview of an ITINs. My information is on the IRS website. My name is Arturo Cortez, as you see it on the screen. There's my contact number is there. You can call me anytime, and I'm happy to be able to clear any doubts or have any answers to your questions. So that's what I have for right now, and I wish you a lot of good luck on your endeavors with this project.
Thank you, Arturo, so much for the information. And if you guys have any questions, you can contact Arturo, and you can also send your questions to our team. I will put my email on the chat, and we can forward the questions to Arturo. If we're not able to answer the questions, but you can always also find him online. I don't know if Arturo, if you're able to put your contact information on the chat, or the link where they can find your information right before you leave, because I know you have you need to step out. But thank you, Arturo, for the information that you have provided today.
You're welcome. Yes.
Yeah, and just a few thoughts. In my experience in working in higher education, I have learned that sometimes younger students, like when they just graduated from high school, because they've never filed taxes on their own, it's always been their parents, they don't even know that they have an ITIN number. Right. So we'll say, hey, you can get one with an ITIN, you can get your professional license with an ITIN in California. And for them, they ask, like, what's an ITIN? I don't have one. How do I get one? Come to find out that they've had one because the parents have been filing taxes and putting them as dependents. So it's always a good thing to, let your students know what this is, because they may not know that they actually have one because they've never, at 17 years old, 16 years old, you don't know what you need to pay taxes, right? And so it's going to be sometimes a surprise to even them that they have one and they don't even have to apply for one. So just kind of a little FYI based on the experience that I've had. And yeah, with ITINs, we have seen students have a little bit more access when it comes to background checks and getting a home loan or getting another type of credit that is necessary during their journey in education. I know there's a chat here. I have a question for Arturo. Some students fear receiving the ITIN as they fear it is a way to be located for deportation purposes. Have you ever heard of any issues related to this?
Well, actually, the IRS is prohibited from sharing information. They are very, very, very wary of keeping the privacy of this tax information. But not only that, they're prohibited by law from sharing this information. There are exemptions, for example, when there are cases of terrorism or things of this nature, but no, not at all. The ITIN program has been around since 1996. So, we're talking about 25 years now. And there are no instances where information of the whereabouts of the applicants or addresses or jobs or what have you has been shared with other agencies. So no question, no need to worry about those things.
And I think it comes up also because from what I remember a long, long time ago, USCIS was actually known as INS. So sometimes students or individuals get really nervous, like they think it's the same or they think it's connected when, just like you stated right now, Arturo, they're not connected and that information is not shared. So thank you for that. And Tanya just put a little bit more info on the chat for us. USC 6103 is the law protecting the confidentiality of tax return information.
Right, so I said the IRS is prohibited from sharing this information. So no worries on that.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Arturo, and thank you, Tanya, for adding that over. Next, I am going to be sharing my screen, so hang tight with me for a little bit. We have actually a video from a student. It's around 4 or 5 minutes long, but it just kind of shares her experience in navigating while she was trying to pursue and complete her degree in nursing without an SSN, and just how she navigated that, especially when it came to the clinical component or completing the experience requirement for her program. And so I'll play it for you as soon as I am able to get that up. All right. I think for me, this is why we're doing the work that we're doing, because as educators in public institutions and working with students as they're enrolling into even private institutions, we hear a lot from students who are continuously feeling what Paola felt. And I think this is why we're doing the work that we're doing. And so just a reminder for institutions, by us, you know, kind of adding information to our websites, um, that are not inclusive of undocumented students, or having processes that don't allow students to advance into these programs really cause a lot of stress, and sometimes we don't realize what's happening. So I just really wanted to share Paola's message with all of you. I met Paola a while ago, but she had already done all of the work even without us, right, on her own. um, but I think it's really in her to hope, that other students don't have to go through the same. So as you're kind of moving forward and hopefully establishing equitable access and equitable procedures for undocumented students, I hope that you just keep students like Paola in mind, and just kind of all of the stress that one, they're already going through. Adding more shouldn't be part of what we're doing to students. And so with that said, I think it's going to really bridge us next to what our next speaker may be, the information that our next speaker is going to be bringing. I know sometimes, just like Paola was stating, it was a very difficult road, and it really depended on the hospital that she was doing her clinical rotation at, of how supportive they were, how they were able to really bring the student in and process them without a social security number, which we found that for many clinical sites, it's something that they really um, don't feel or don't know how to do that. And so when I met Deborah, our next speaker, I was just blown away by a lot of the information that she provided, and I am really excited to have her here today. So um, Deborah Richardson, she's an RN, not from California, which I love that you're bringing in a perspective from a non-California location. So please, Deborah, please introduce yourself, and you can have the floor.
Thank you. I'm Deb Richardson. I'm an associate professor of nursing in Georgia. I'm gonna stop videoing so that my bandwidth will allow me to share my screen with you. So hold on just 1 second. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, Deborah.
Okay. So some may wonder what an associate professor of nursing from Georgia can add to this discussion, but I want to emphasize that the barriers to careers in nursing for dreamers are a national problem, and it's a problem that I've been researching for more than 6 years. In 2019, after years of struggling to find accurate information, I repeated a scoping review of literature to examine what is known about the experience of dreamers who are U.S. nursing program graduates. The sources of U.S. literature I reviewed were limited to those published between DACA's enactment in June 2012 to the time of my review in June 2019. The primary result of this scoping review emphasized the lack of available research related to DACA recipients who are U.S. nursing program graduates. Over the 7-year period, only 7 sources were found to offer firsthand information about the experience of DACA recipients in nursing, and none of these were peer-reviewed research articles. So I received full IRB approval to conduct a phenomenological study of the lived experience of DACA recipients who are U.S. nursing program graduates and their paths to professional licensure. I am pleased that this seminal research is in press for publication in Nursing Education Perspectives, but advocacy is needed now. Therefore, I want to share some of what I've learned in order to encourage advocacy for DACA recipient and undocumented nursing program graduates. I'll discuss why we should welcome dreamers into our programs of nursing education and share some best practices from my research in supporting undocumented students in our programs. I'll explain how undocumented students may be permitted to complete clinical experience and access electronic medical records without a Social Security number. Finally, I'll offer encouragement in a general introduction to opportunities for innovation and entrepreneurship so that undocumented nurses can generate income. We need to welcome dreamers into our programs of nursing. The latest National Nursing Workforce Survey data indicated that the average age of RNs is 52 years, and nearly 20% of nurses are over age 65. With over 500,000 experienced RNs planning to retire in 2022, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics projected the need for over 1 million new RNs to avoid critical nursing shortages. According to Pew Research, 2/3 of nearly 700,000 Dreamers enrolled in DACA in 2017 were 25 years of age and under. Therefore, DACA recipients pursuing careers in nursing can help compensate for an aging workforce and the projected loss of retiring RNs that threatens critical nursing shortages. Dreamers can also contribute to much needed diversity in the nursing workforce. In the National Workforce Study, nearly 81% of RNs reported being white or Caucasian. Diversity is needed because the nursing workforce is currently unable to keep pace with the culturally sensitive care demands of an increasingly diverse U.S. population. Dreamers may help mitigate racial and ethnic disparities because they represent over 25 countries of origin. Finally, we should welcome dreamers into our programs of nursing because dreamers are persistent. I conducted interviews with 17 DACA recipients who are U.S. nursing program graduates. All have successfully become registered nurses. Their 9 states of licensure listed here represented each of the 5 regions of the United States: West, Southwest, Midwest, Northeast, and Southeast. By 2017, 3,404 registered nurses were included in a new American Economy study spotlighting the DACA eligible population. Based on my interviews, I suspect that many of these RNs began their journey into nursing careers prior to receiving DACA, yet they persisted despite obstacles to their success. One of the most moving quotes from all these interviews was Mia's description of life before DACA. She said, "I felt like I was stuck. It felt like my wings were cut off. I wanted to do so much and I knew my potential, but I was unable to do it because of a piece of paper." The first best practice that I want to emphasize is to ensure that the potential of students pursuing careers in nursing is not hindered based on the decisions made by others while these students were children. It is not for us nurse faculty to know the future or maintain the status quo, but to educate all those who qualify to enter our programs of nursing and advocate for those who graduate so that they can practice to the full extent of their education and experience. Best practice for supportive dreamers in nursing education must begin with removing the term illegal from our vocabulary in reference to human beings. Actions are illegal, never individuals. Maya described the dehumanizing result of such language, explaining, as a DACA recipient, I felt like my humanity was always being questioned. But as a nurse, I feel fortunate that I am able to make therapeutic connections with my patients and that we are able to find humanity in that. The value of people and the respect for individuals in nursing is what drew the participants to our profession. Let us ensure that these values are manifested in our programs of nursing. As we recognize students as individuals, we are able to offer guidance and encouragement. As Brittany said of her dean, she would check in with me, ask how I was doing, how my grades were, and she would just cheer me up at all times. Mia also described how faculty members offered guidance and encouragement, saying the professor was always telling us to reach out and look for resources. Always use all of your resources. The challenge of it all, according to Mao, is that there was no one else that you could really ask for guidance or advice. As faculty, we know that FERPA regulations prevent educators from asking about students' immigration status, but that does not minimize our obligation to identify students in need of support. We must create a culture in nursing education where dreamers can feel comfortable self-disclosing about immigration status to find support and accurate information. This does not have to be an office. In my experience, this safe space is created by an invitation to students to reach out to me for information about resources to aid their success. As a result, faculty, staff, and students have referred other undocumented students of nursing and other majors to me. The nurses I interviewed shared how financial support was critical to their success because DACA recipients are exempt from receiving federal aid to fund their nursing education, and many state schools treat them as international students regarding non-U.S. resident tuition and fees. For them, financial support within higher education was found through tuition savings in accelerated BSN programs, community colleges, and private universities due to lower cost or no out-of-state tuition for dreamers. According to Lola, the state school was 3 times more expensive, and the private school offered her more scholarship opportunities. Alba Jean told how her school provided support by offering her a payment plan because they knew that she was struggling to pay in full every semester. Support from organizations outside of higher education was found through nursing associations, advocacy groups, and tuition reimbursement from healthcare system employers. We need to be aware of the available cost savings and resources for our students and pass that information along to our students. For example, CLEP exams cost the same regardless of residency status, and students can save thousands of dollars through independent study and testing out of courses. I've known students who took biology on campus and tested out of 9 other prerequisite credit hours in that same semester. Taking courses online rather than face-to-face can also save students out of state tuition in many institutions. Undocumented students should also be made aware that although they may not be able to complete the online FAFSA application without a Social Security number, many campuses accept FAFSAs submitted in paper form with zeros in place of the Social Security number in consideration for financial aid through privately funded institutional scholarships. I've included some of the links that I share with my students in this slide. Nurse faculty also need to become informed in order to offer knowledgeable advice about licensure. Participants in the study agreed that nurse faculty did not provide clarity regarding the licensure process for DACA recipients. Participants recalled being misinformed by nursing faculty that their DACA status disqualified them from applying for registered nurse licensure. Even after her successful licensure, Mia recalled how members of her faculty continued to advise DACA recipients that they could not become licensed. Lola commented that with your faculty as your counselors, their responsibility is to help you out in these situations. Unfortunately, they don't know these things, and we have to come up with the information. Remind students that the NCLEX is a national exam, and candidates are not limited to testing in the state in which their program of nursing is based. Nurse faculty can contact their state board of nursing and those of surrounding states to determine the requirements for undocumented and DACA recipient applicants. Remember, DACA recipients qualify for a Social Security number and work authorization, and undocumented students may have or can apply for an individual taxpayer identification number or ITIN, which may allow them to apply for licensure in some states. Another common concern is related to undocumented students' ability to complete the required clinical rotations. Administrators at clinical sites are accustomed to compliance with state and federal regulations, and they can be made to understand that the Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA, restricts the disclosure of students' protected information to a third party. Since Social Security numbers and immigration status are protected information, these are not offered to our clinical sites. Each student has a state-issued picture ID with their student ID number. Contracts are between the healthcare system and the college, not the individual student. Therefore, faculty's protected information is provided as a contracted worker, and we complete the orientation and training as required. Students are not contracted with the hospital, but are expected to complete any required orientation and training. Clinical instructors can be given access to the electronic health record and allow students to access records under their direct supervision. With the advent of educational EMR products, students have ample opportunity to document in an electronic record outside of the clinical setting. Other questions that faculty ask me are related to undocumented students' ability to take the licensure exam or gain employment once they graduate. A need for clarity does remain regarding state licensure, as policies vary by state. The National Conference of State Legislators reported legislation related to professional licenses for undocumented immigrants in 11 states. However, many of these policies did not pertain to the profession of nursing. Conversely, some of the participants in my study were licensed as registered nurses in states not listed by the NCSL. Further research is needed to provide accurate information for faculty and the students we advise about states that license Dreamers as registered nurses. Faculty also expressed concern about filling nursing program seats with students who will not be able to practice after graduation. First, DACA recipients are subject to the same employment eligibility verification process as their peers who are U.S. citizens or permanent residents. Unless we exclude all who may practice in another state after graduation, it is unethical for us to exclude those who may currently be required by their status to practice in another state. Undocumented graduates can also become licensed in certain states. Although there are no legal avenues for hospitals to hire an undocumented worker without work authorization, undocumented workers can receive an ITIN that allows them to work independently of a healthcare system. Therefore, we cannot underestimate the entrepreneurial spirit of immigrants whose innovation has made significant contributions to U.S. progress. I hope to encourage dreamers with new American economy research that estimates nearly 830,000 undocumented entrepreneurs in the United States. And Startup Health Insights year-end report of billions invested in new healthcare ventures. Dr. Tim Rattersdorf is a nurse faculty and Chief Innovation Officer at Ohio State University and the author of Entrepreneurship in Healthcare in Melnick's Evidence-Based Leadership, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship. This includes a list of 15 entrepreneurial concepts that are also very descriptive of dreamers' experience. I'll bet dreamers in the room could fill up the chat with personal examples of how you recognize and assess opportunities, manage uncertainty, mitigate and manage risk, envision the future, use creative problem solving and innovation to create new value. How about planning and modeling when nothing exists? Resource leverage, staying focused and adapting from learned experience. Entrepreneurship also requires tenacity and perseverance, self-efficacy, resilience, and reframing failure or barriers for your own success. How do these characteristics of entrepreneurs feel familiar to you? Tim writes specifically about healthcare entrepreneurs and how they must attain, pay attention to their calling, to their colleagues, and to their consumers. I might add that you also need to pay attention to your competition because, and I quote, the status quo always exists as competition. Your opportunity must create a better outcome than what people achieve from maintaining the current practice. Your place in healthcare does not need to be limited by the status quo or just a job in some hospital. You can sidestep the bureaucracy of the current healthcare system by adapting to the changing environment. Think about the people in communities around you. What culturally sensitive needs do they have? Are you willing to type these ideas in the chat? I included a couple of links to help you think outside of the hospital box and learn how to leverage your skills, knowledge, and experience in starting your own business. Job boards and recruitment sites such as LinkedIn, Monster, and Career Builder may also offer ideas. For example, I retrieved these ideas from a post on another job board site, Indeed.com. You can see there are several ways in which a registered nurse can become an independent contractor. These lists include businesses such as menu style concierge, where customers choose from a menu of services that they need, or in-home care, consulting, teaching, writing, research, product development. For example, I recently heard about a nurse who currently identified a need in her community and created culturally sensitive instructional videos for clients in their native language, and she sold these videos to doctors' offices. The opportunities for innovation in healthcare is limitless. However, opportunities for dreamers in nursing are limited by state and federal policy. Therefore, advocacy is needed to ensure that dreamers who are U.S. nursing program graduates can qualify for professional licensure in every state. In the absence of comprehensive congressional immigration reform, we can demand that dreamers who graduate from U.S. nursing program graduate programs and become registered nurses be added to that list of special immigrants who qualify for a permanent resident card or a green card. This action would create a path to citizenship for these invaluable yet undocumented nurses. Thank you so much for listening. Contact me for information, references, resources, or collaboration in research. I've listed my contact information and I'll share these slides with Yadi.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for the information that you brought to us, and congratulations on the research that you've completed. It's become very valuable, especially in the research that we've been doing at Pre-Health Dreamers, to really come up with all of these different solution-oriented advice and next steps for students, educators, and healthcare professionals serving the community that needs this support, this kind of support. And really, just to conclude, thank you everybody for sticking around with us. And just one little last message, just as Deborah had mentioned, and a lot of the other individuals speaking here with us today, just a reminder that language is vital and it's really powerful when it comes to supporting undocumented students. Based on today's information, we encourage school administrators, decision makers, directors of nursing programs to publish welcoming language on their websites. This can be really helpful and useful for students. Language on nursing websites can automatically deter undocumented students and even change their lives. This is not a one instance moment, but recently I had a California student who was informed years ago that they could not apply to the nursing program. They had been denied twice, or they were not even allowed to apply to the nursing program because she didn't have a social security number. And undocumented students are constantly hearing no, right? You don't qualify for this, you don't qualify for that. And they believe that there's nothing that really sometimes they can do. Now more than ever, we have more advocate students and students that really have learned how to navigate, but we still have younger students who really take the no as a final answer. So she, in hearing no, she really didn't feel like there was other options. So she stopped attending school because she felt that she was going to get the same answer everywhere she went, whatever degree she chose. So she quit school. She went on to work in food service for around 2 years until she came recently to our nursing Q&A for undocumented students and learned that this whole time she could have applied to a nursing program in California. So we reconnected her with some of the counselors that we're really close to so that they can help her. And the student actually moved out of state because that's where she found a little bit more support from family. So she moved back to California and will be starting her nursing program this coming year. So it's really been life-changing for her. And I want to bring awareness to this because sometimes unknowingly we create those barriers that are life-changing when at the end of the day, as educators, we could have supported students. Language such as a social security number is required, or quote, you may be able to start the program without an SSN, but you may not be able to finish it, can also deter a student when such language can be inaccurate. Many nursing programs that have posted these messages have never researched further or opened up these conversations with their partners. We encourage schools to work with clinical sites to create procedures that support the enrollment and onboarding of students. We hope that the staff sees these conversations as opportunities, especially as conversations about equity becoming prominent. We understand that these can be difficult conversations because schools fear losing their partnerships with clinical sites. We keep hearing that over and over from our partners. But we encourage nursing programs to go up to bat and ask for how the students can be supported when completing their experience hours. If you're a clinical site here with us today, be the one to open up these conversations. It is essential to know that what the licensure requirements are in your state and in other states. I had a nursing program recently deny a student, again in California, and they stated that to get your license, you needed a social security number. However, as you guys have now learned, since 2014, we've had laws passed in California where you can get your professional license with an ITIN. So unknowingly, I hope it was unknowingly, this nursing program was denying students based on wrong information. And so if you're an administrator at your campus, learn what obstacles your nursing programs are having when supporting undocumented students. If you are with a site that provides clinicals, including your partnerships conversations and your partnerships within your conversation and contract language that brings awareness to these topics. Even a sentence, it could be really simple changes, even a sentence stating on your partnership or on your website or the clinical documents that individuals complete, you can say our site does not require an SSN to complete your experience. Something so simple as that can make a huge difference, or open up those discussions with individuals. We also want to bring awareness to not denying students because they will not be able to work afterward. I think Deborah just mentioned that perfectly in her presentation. And we know that it's not true. There's so many other options available for individuals once they receive their licensure. Also a reminder, as our speakers had noted earlier, advocates are making strides in advancing, just policy changes in immigration. And so we don't want to make decisions that affect students based on their current situation. We have seen students start their program without a social, and because their situation or policies change before they graduate, the student gains employment authorization afterward, and they're able to practice. Some individuals have graduated and done private duty. Then for a specific reason, such as lost changes, again, their status changed and they were able to get employment authorization. I really hope that today's information sparked new ideas for everybody, and that you all move forward, especially if you're a professional here today with us or an educator, that you continue to create welcoming spaces for undocumented students in nursing and all of the other fields. We want to thank everybody for joining us today. I will be sending the recording to everybody who RSVP'd. Please send us over your notes. I'm going to go ahead and again add my email to the chat if you have any other follow-up questions. And then also I will stop recording.